The knock came at 6:47 a.m., 3 sharp raps that cut through the silence of my empty apartment. I hadn't slept. None of us had, not after watching the Valorian homeworld burn on every newsfeed until the signals went dark. When I opened the door, Empress Seelith Voronith stood in my hallway, her ceremonial robes torn and stained with ash, her silver blood dried in streaks across her angular face. "You," she said, and her voice cracked on that single syllable. "You are Marcus Cole, the human translator who served in my court, former translator." I stepped aside without thinking. "They dismissed me 6 months ago. Your High Chancellor said my services were no longer required." She walked past me as if she hadn't heard, her tall frame moving with a grace that seemed wrong given what she must have witnessed. The Valorian Empire had ruled 47 systems. It had stood for 3,000 years. And in a single night, the Cathari swarm had reduced it to fire and screaming. Her empire fell in a single night. She showed up at my apartment the next morning. I would replay those words in my head for months afterward, trying to understand why fate had chosen my door. "I require sanctuary," Seelith said. She stood in the center of my cramped living room, surrounded by second-hand furniture and unwashed dishes, looking like a goddess dropped into a junkyard. "The Cathari are hunting the royal bloodline. My sisters are dead. My mother's ship was destroyed during evacuation. I am the last." "Why me?" The question came out harsher than I intended. "You have allies. The Consortium. The Helix Federation. Anyone more equipped than a former court translator living in a one-bedroom apartment on Earth." Her golden eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern across her face, fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Because when High Chancellor Varric dismissed you, you did not rage. You did not plead. You bowed according to our custom, wished prosperity upon the throne, and departed with your dignity intact. That's not a reason to trust someone with your life. Is it not?" She tilted her head, a gesture I'd learned to read as genuine curiosity during my years in her court. "In my experience, humans reveal their true nature in moments of humiliation. You were shamed publicly, Marcus Cole, and you responded with grace." I wanted to tell her that I'd cried in the shuttle bay afterward, that I'd spent 3 months drunk, mourning a career I'd given everything to build. That grace was just another word for being too tired to fight. Instead, I said, "The couch folds out. I'll get blankets. I did not come to impose upon your hospitality." "Then why did you come?" She was silent for a long moment. Outside, sirens wailed. The city was in chaos, refugees from a dozen fallen worlds flooding Earth's ports. The Cathari hadn't reached this system yet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. "Because I have nowhere else to go," she finally admitted. "And because you were the only person in my court who ever looked at me as if I were a person rather than a symbol." I remembered. Those long nights translating diplomatic documents, the 2 of us working until dawn while the rest of the court slept. She would ask me questions about Earth, our music, our food, our strange custom of choosing our own partners rather than accepting arranged bonds. And I would answer, sometimes for hours, forgetting that I was speaking to the ruler of 47 worlds. "I'll get the blankets," I said again. She watched me move through the apartment, her 4 eyes tracking my every motion. Valorians didn't show emotion the way humans did. Their faces were sculpted masks of bone and silver-tinged skin, but I'd learned to read the subtle shifts in their posture, the angle of their crested heads. Right now, Seelith Voronith was terrified. "Have you eaten?" I asked. "Not since before the attack." I opened my refrigerator and assessed the contents with growing embarrassment. Leftover pizza. A container of questionable Chinese food. Some vegetables that had seen better days. "I can make eggs," I offered. "I do not know what eggs are. Then today's a good day to find out." I cooked in silence while she sat at my small kitchen table, her hands folded in her lap with the rigid formality I remembered from court. She looked wrong here, diminished somehow. Not by the humble surroundings, but by the absence of everything she had been. Yesterday she had commanded fleets and decided the fates of billions. Today she was watching a disgraced translator scramble eggs in a cast-iron pan. "The High Chancellor," she said suddenly. "Varric. He was the one who betrayed us to the Cathari." I nearly dropped the pan. "What?" He opened our defense grid, allowed their ships to approach the homeworld unchallenged. Her voice was flat, controlled, but I heard the tremor beneath it. I discovered his treachery too late. By the time I reached the escape pods, the palace was already burning. Why would he do that? Because I refused to become his bonded mate. She accepted the plate I offered, staring at the eggs with visible uncertainty. He believed that if my family were eliminated, I would have no choice but to accept his protection. His alliance. He killed billions of people because you rejected him. Valorian males do not respond well to rejection. She took a careful bite of eggs, and something in her expression shifted, surprise perhaps, or pleasure. This is acceptable, high praise. I sat across from her with my own plate. So what happens now? The consortium won't shelter you. They were already looking for an excuse to absorb Valorian territory. The Federation has its own problems. I am aware of my limited options. Then what's your plan? She set down her fork with precise, deliberate movements. I have no plan, Marcus Cole. I have no fleet, no army, no allies. Everything my family built over 3 millennia, is ash and memory. I am a symbol, without a people, a ruler, without a throne. Her 4 eyes met mine. I came here because you are the only person in the galaxy who owes me nothing, and might help me anyway. I'm a translator. I barely make rent. You are human. Your species has a reputation for taking in broken things. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. She was right. About humans, and maybe about me specifically. I'd always been the one who brought home stray animals as a kid, who defended the outcasts at school, who couldn't walk past suffering without trying to fix it, even when the suffering wore a crown. 1 week, I said. You can stay 1 week while we figure out something more permanent, but you're not my empress anymore, Seelith. In this apartment, you're just a refugee like everyone else. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen how Valorian nobility treats humans. We're barely above servants in your social hierarchy. I am no longer in a position to observe social hierarchies. Something almost like humor crossed her features. I am the last of my bloodline, hiding in a 1-bedroom apartment, eating eggs. I believe my status has been sufficiently humbled. I wanted to stay angry, at her people for dismissing me, at the universe for dropping this impossible situation at my door. But looking at her, at the ash still caught in the delicate ridges of her crest and the exhaustion carved into every line of her body, I couldn't maintain it. I'll find you something to sleep in, I said. And tomorrow, we start figuring out how to keep you alive. You would do this, truly? I would. She studied me for a long moment, her golden eyes unreadable. Then I am in your debt, Marcus Cole. And Valorians do not forget their debts. Just don't get me killed, I said. That's payment enough. The first week became 2. Then, a month. Seelith learned to operate my coffee maker, which she found endlessly fascinating. She discovered human music, spending hours listening to everything from classical symphonies to jazz to what she called the organized chaos of your rock and roll. She read my books, physical books, which she'd never encountered, turning in each page with the careful reverence of someone handling sacred texts. And slowly, piece by piece, she told me about the fall. My mother's ship exploded during the evacuation, she said one evening, as we watched Earth's sun set through my small window. I saw it happen. One moment she was there, coordinating the refugee fleet, and then, she made a gesture with her long fingers, mimicking an explosion. Nothing. I'm sorry. Valorians do not require sympathy. We are taught to accept loss as inevitable. That's a terrible thing to teach children. She turned to look at me, her 4 eyes narrowing in what I'd learned to recognize as surprise. You believe this genuinely? I believe grief isn't weakness. I believe it's what proves we love something. Loved. She tasted the word like a foreign spice. Your species places such emphasis on this concept. Doesn't yours? We have bonds, alliances, arrangements of mutual benefit. She paused. My parents' union was considered highly successful. They produced 4 healthy offspring and maintained a stable power structure for 200 years. But did they love each other? I do not know how to answer that question in terms you would understand. She pulled her borrowed sweater, one of my old ones, far too large for her narrow shoulders, tighter around herself. My mother was fond of my father. He valued her counsel. When he died in the Outer Rim campaign, she mourned for the prescribed period and then resumed her duties. That sounds lonely. It sounds Valorian. But something in her voice wavered, just slightly. We are not a species given to sentiment, Marcus Cole. We conquered 47 worlds through efficiency and order, not through thon. She gestured vaguely. Whatever it is you humans do. Connection? I offered. Caring about people beyond their usefulness? Weakness? My High Chancellor would have called it? Her jaw tightened. And perhaps he was right. Sentiment made me trust those I should not have trusted. Made me believe that loyalty and competence were the same thing. Varric betrayed you because he was a monster, not because you were too trusting. The result is the same. I set down my cup and turned to face her fully. No, it isn't. Seelith, you can't blame yourself for someone else's treachery. You can't spend the rest of your life assuming everyone will hurt you because one person did. I have known you for 32 days, she said quietly. In that time, you have sheltered me, fed me, asked nothing in return, and refused every offer of compensation I have made. You have treated me with more consistent respect than anyone in my own court. That says more about your court than it does about me. Perhaps. She reached out, slowly, hesitantly, as if the gesture was unfamiliar, and touched my hand, where it rested on the table. Her fingers were cool against my skin, her grip light and uncertain. Or perhaps it says something about you, Marcus Cole. Something you refuse to see. The touch lasted only a moment before she withdrew, but I felt the echo of it long afterward. We should discuss more practical matters, she said, her tone shifting back to formal. I cannot remain in hiding forever. The Kethari will eventually discover my survival, and when they do, they will come for me. I know. You could turn me over to them. Negotiate for your planet's safety. She said it matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. The swarm has offered considerable rewards for the capture of any surviving Voronith. Seelith. It would be the logical choice. One Valorian life in exchange for Earth's security. Seelith. Seelith. I waited until her eyes met mine. That's not happening. You cannot know that. When faced with sufficient pressure, I'm not turning you over to the monsters who killed your family. End of discussion. She stared at me for a long moment, and something shifted in her expression. A crack in the careful mask she'd worn since arriving at my door. Because you're not a bargaining chip, you're a person. Because... I stopped, not sure how to finish the sentence. Because you are human, she said softly, and humans take in broken things. You're not broken. My empire is ash. My people are scattered across 100 refugee camps. My family is dead, and I am sleeping on a human's folding couch. Her voice broke on the last word. By any reasonable definition, Marcus Cole, I am broken. I moved before I could second-guess myself, crossing the small space between us and taking her hands in mine. Her fingers tensed, then slowly relaxed. You survived, I said. That's not broken. That's brave. Survival is not bravery. Survival is merely continued existence, not when everything in you wants to give up, not when it would be easier to stop fighting. I squeezed her hands gently. I know what that feels like, Seelith. After they dismissed me from your court, I spent months trying to drink myself into oblivion. I nearly succeeded. Her eyes widened, all four of them. You did not mention this before. It's not something I'm proud of. What stopped you? I considered the question. My mother, mostly. She called me one night, just to talk, and I realized I couldn't do that to her. Couldn't leave her to wonder if there was something she could have done differently. You survived for someone else. At first. Eventually I figured out how to survive for myself. I met her gaze. That's what you're going to do too. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. You're going to find a reason to keep going. That belongs to you. You sound very certain. I am. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned forward and rested her head against my shoulder. A gesture so unexpected, so vulnerable, that I froze in place. Valorians do not seek physical comfort, she murmured against my collarbone. We are taught that touch is weakness, that needing another's presence is a failure of self-sufficiency. That sounds exhausting. It is. Her breath was warm against my neck. I am very tired, Marcus Cole. I raised my hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away, and rested it against her back. She shuddered once, then went still. Then rest, I said. I'm not going anywhere. We stayed like that for a long time, neither of us speaking, as the city lights flickered on outside my window and the sirens faded into distant noise. The assassin came on the 47th day. I woke to the sound of breaking glass and Salith's scream. Not fear, but fury, the kind of sound that made my blood run cold. By the time I reached the living room, she had already killed one of them, her borrowed clothes splattered with silver blood that wasn't hers. 3 more remained. Marcus! She shoved me back as an energy weapon discharged, the bolt searing past my shoulder close enough to burn. Stay down. The attackers weren't Cathari, they were Valorian, their crested heads marking them as high-born. One of them snarled something in formal court dialect, and I caught the words traitor and unworthy. Varric's followers, Salith spat. She was unarmed, defending herself with nothing but her hands and a broken lampstand. They've tracked me here. I dove for the kitchen, for the cast-iron pan that had become Salith's favorite cooking implement. Not much of a weapon, but it was heavy, and I was desperate. The first assassin didn't see me coming. The pan connected with his skull with a satisfying crack, and he went down in a heap of ceremonial armor and groaning limbs. Human, the second one hissed, turning toward me with a blade that hummed with lethal energy. You dare interfere? You broke into my apartment. I raised the pan like a shield. I'm going to do more than interfere. He lunged, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was about to die. The blade was faster than thought, faster than any human reflex could counter. Salith hit him from the side, driving them both through my already shattered window and onto the fire escape beyond. I heard the clash of bodies against metal, the crunch of bone, and then silence. The third assassin was already dead on my floor, his neck twisted at an impossible angle. I found Salith on the fire escape, crouched over the second attacker's body, her hands trembling. She was bleeding from a dozen small wounds, silver blood running down her arms and dripping onto the rusted metal beneath her. Salith. I knelt beside her. You attacked a Valorian warrior with a cooking implement. Her voice was strange, almost wondering. You should be dead. I've been told I'm stubborn. You should be dead. She turned to face me, and I saw tears tracking down her cheeks, actual tears, something I'd been told Valorians were incapable of producing. You nearly died. For me. That's what we're doing now. Keeping score? You are not equipped to fight my battles, Marcus Cole. You are human. Fragile. Breakable. So are you. I reached up, wiping a tear from her face with my thumb. Her skin was cool and smooth beneath my touch. That's what living means, Salith. We're all breakable. We keep going anyway. She grabbed my wrist, holding my hand against her cheek with sudden, fierce intensity. I should leave. My presence here endangers you. Don't. Marcus, don't. I shifted closer, ignoring the broken glass cutting into my knees. You don't get to decide what risks I'm willing to take. You don't get to protect me by disappearing. You are being irrational. Probably. I smile despite everything. It's a human thing. She made a sound, half laugh, half sob, and then her forehead was pressed against mine, her breath warm on my lips. We stayed there, frozen, as sirens began to wail in the distance, and the city woke to yet another crisis. I cannot lose you, she whispered. I have lost everything else. I cannot. You won't. You cannot promise that. I can promise I'm not going anywhere by choice. I can promise I'll fight for you until my last breath. I can promise. I swallowed hard. I can promise that whatever you're feeling right now, I'm feeling it too. Her 4 eyes searched my face, looking for deception or manipulation, the only responses her world had taught her to expect. Whatever she found instead made her whole body go still. This is not how bonds are formed among my people, she said. Maybe it's time for something different. The galaxy is falling apart. The Cathari will come for Earth eventually. We may have months, or only weeks. Then we make those weeks count. She kissed me then, not soft, not hesitant, but desperate and fierce, as if she was trying to pour everything she couldn't say into that single point of contact. Her lips tasted like salt and copper, and something alien that I would never be able to name. When she pulled back, she was shaking. I do not know how to do this, she admitted. I do not know how to feel, neither do I. I took her hands in mine, mindful of the wound still bleeding sluggishly. We'll figure it out together. An empress and a translator, a refugee and a stubborn human who hits assassins with frying pans. I managed a tired grin. We're already ridiculous. Might as well lean into it. Something almost like a smile crossed her features, the first real smile I'd ever seen from her. You are going to be the death of me, Marcus Cole. Probably. I kissed her forehead. But not today. The consortium fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, 6 weeks later. I watched from the observation deck of the refugee carrier that had become our home since the assassin attack. Too dangerous to stay on Earth, too dangerous to stay anywhere for long. Seelith stood beside me, her hand wrapped around mine with a familiarity that had become as natural as breathing. They are not here to attack, she said, studying the dozens of warships hanging like silver needles against the stars. If they meant destruction, they would not have hailed us first. Then why are they here? I believe we are about to find out. The consortium's ambassador was a being I'd never seen before. Not Valorian, not Cathari, but something older. And stranger. Its body comprised of shifting geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. It manifested in the carrier's conference room, with a sound like wind chimes made of ice. You are Seelith Voronith, it said. Last empress of a fallen dynasty. Former empress. Seelith's voice was steady. I make no claims to a throne that no longer exists. Your throne may yet be reclaimed. The ambassador's patterns shifted, resolving momentarily into something almost like a face. The consortium has watched the Cathari swarm's expansion with growing concern. Their methods do not align with our vision of galactic stability. You want to use her, I said, stepping forward despite Seelith's warning glance. As a figurehead, a rallying symbol for the scattered Valorian survivors. The ambassador's attention shifted to me. I felt it like pressure behind my eyes. You are the human. The one who has sheltered the Empress against all rational self-interest. I'm the one who's not going to stand here while you talk about her like she's a chess piece. Marcus, Seelith's grip on my hand tightened. Let them speak. The human is correct, the ambassador acknowledged. We require a symbol. The Valorian diaspora is scattered and leaderless. With an empress to unite them, they could become a significant force against the swarm. And what would you offer in return? Seelith asked. Ships. Weapons. A seat on the Coalition Council. The ambassador's patterns rippled. And protection for this system, for Earth. I felt Seelith go still beside me. You would guarantee Earth's safety? In exchange for your cooperation, yes? Your human has proven unexpectedly significant. The few of us have observed his influence on you with interest. His influence? You stand differently since taking refuge with him. You speak differently. You grieve openly. Something your species has not done in millennia. The ambassador made a sound that might have been amusement. He has made you more than you were, Seelith Voronith. More than your training permitted. Some of us believe this makes you more valuable. Others consider you damaged goods. I am neither valuable nor damaged. Seelith's voice had gone cold. I am a person. As is Marcus Cole. We are not symbols or assets to be traded. You would refuse our offer. I would negotiate different terms. She released my hand and stepped forward, and in that moment, I saw the empress she had once been, the ruler of 47 worlds. The woman who had commanded fleets and shaped the fates of billions. You want the Valorian survivors united? I will unite them. You want a war leader against the Cathari? I will lead your war, but not as your puppet, as your equal. You have no armies. No ships. No, I have something your coalition lacks. She glanced back at me with the ghost of a smile. I have learned, from a human translator who cooks with cast iron and attacks assassins with kitchenware, that power does not come from what you command. It comes from what you are willing to sacrifice for those who follow you. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. This is the human influence we spoke of. This is the person I have become. Seelith straightened to her full height. If your coalition cannot accept that person, then we have nothing further to discuss. And if we do accept, then Earth receives full protection status. Marcus Cole receives citizenship and diplomatic recognition in all coalition territories. The Valorian survivors will be resettled with full rights, not relegated to refugee camps. She listed her demands without hesitation. And any future bonds I form will be my choice, not arranged by committee for political convenience. These terms are extensive. I am the last of my bloodline. The sole heir to 3 millennia of Valorian authority. Her voice softened slightly. I am also a woman who has learned, very recently, what it means to be seen as more than a symbol. I will not trade that knowledge away for anything. The ambassador's patterns shifted one final time, resolving into something that looked almost like respect. We will deliberate. You will have our answer within the standard cycle. It vanished without another word, leaving us alone in the conference room. That was either brilliant or suicidal, I said. Possibly both. Seelith turned to face me, and I saw exhaustion and hope, and something fiercer burning in her golden eyes. I meant what I said. About bonds being my choice, I know, I am not offering you a throne, Marcus Cole. I may never reclaim one. I am not offering you wealth, or power, or status. I have none of those things to give. I know that too. What I am offering, she stepped closer, until barely a breath separated us. What I am offering is myself. Broken and stubborn, and still learning how to feel things I was taught to suppress. I am offering you a future that will certainly be difficult, and probably be short, and may end with both of us dead at Kethari hands. That's a terrible sales pitch. I am not trying to sell you anything. She raised her hand to my face, her cool fingers tracing the line of my jaw. I am asking if you will stand beside me anyway, not as my protector or my subject, but as my... She hesitated. What is the human word? The one that encompasses partnership and affection, and the desire to wake beside someone every morning. Love, I said. The word is love. Love. She tested it the way she tested so many human words over the past months. Then I am asking if you will love me, Marcus Cole, despite everything. I pulled her close, feeling her heartbeat, faster than a human's, but steady, against my chest. I've been loving you since you ate scrambled eggs in my kitchen and told me they were acceptable. She laughed, actually laughed, the sound bright and startling. That was an understatement. Your eggs are extraordinary. Flatterer. Truth teller. She pulled back enough to meet my eyes. Her empire fell in a single night. She showed up at my apartment the next morning. Do you remember saying that? I thought it, mostly. Never expected it to become my entire life. Nor did I expect to find my purpose in a one-bedroom apartment on a backwater world, taught by a translator with more courage than sense. She kissed me softly, her lips lingering against mine. The universe has a strange sense of humor. The universe is about to get a lot stranger. I nodded toward the window, where the coalition ship still hung in silent formation. Are you ready? No. She took my hand again, lacing her fingers through mine. But I have learned from a stubborn human that readiness is not a requirement for action. Willingness is enough. Then let's go rebuild an empire. Let's go build something better, she corrected. Something new. Something that takes in broken things and helps them find their shape again. We walked out of the conference room together, the last Valorian empress and the translator who loved her, into a future neither of us could predict and neither of us would face alone. The empire had fallen in a single night. What rose from its ashes would take years to build. But it would rise. We would make certain of that. Together.
So, wer kommt was da? Da. Also Alex, hier ist auch ein Alex. Achso, da, schön.
Im Sounding waren die bis 16. Jetzt haben wir schon 15, ist okay.
Naja, wir haben eine Station mit 15.
Ja, aber es war auch ein Sounding mit 16.
Jo.
Ja, 01Z geht's hier los.
Ist voll der Treffpunkt hier, die Karre irgendwie.
Ist jetzt nicht in der Mitte, die lecker greifen. Ich touch die auch an, so ist es nicht.
Ja, du massierst. Geile Drecksau. Drecksau, die geile.
Ist aber ganz gut, der Wind.
Ja, genau. Ich sitze hinten, dass ich nicht ins Lenkrad reingreife.
Fahrrad.
Ich muss mich immer beherrschen, so meine Hand schnellt immer so nach vorne.
Ja, so schön die Peterlerie.
Du Drecksau, du Geile!
Du Geile.
Das kommt auch mal von ganz tief aus dem Herzen.
Dann morgen große Lage und Alex gibt uns den Top-Rennfahrer als Fahrlehrer, so.
Ich hab's nicht verstanden.
Ich auch nicht.
Was
Geile.
Was? Ich hab's vorgelesen einfach nur.
Achso, du hast was.
Wie du anfangen möchtest zu reden. So, vorher so Ja, und morgen.